Good day, friends. In today's world, where there are so many who make rash and brash public announcements, there are others who could and should speak and yet keep quiet. Why? Because they feel they don't have any public speaking talent. Let me give you a couple of examples. I once went to church and I asked a young girl to do the first reading. And she said, "No, not me. I am nervous and people will laugh at me." When I was teaching in college, for some function, I asked a student to give an impromptu vote of thanks. She too said, "No, sir, please ask someone else." Yes, friends, there are many times when we could and should speak, but we don't do so. I'd like to quote what Aristotle had to say. There is only one way to avoid criticism. Do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. That is what's happening in this world today. I want to remind us that there is no doubt that all of us do some speaking in public, and we may meet with success or failure. Success in public speaking leads on to greater success. What about failure? Let's listen to what Henry Ford had to say. Failure is an opportunity to begin again more intelligently. How true. So what then is public speaking? Public speaking is speaking in public, obviously, but before an audience and in a more formal setting. We use our tongues, our mouths, to convey what is in our heart, what is on our mind, and mostly something prepared. Yes, that's what we do in public speaking. But there are many of us who cringe at the very thought of opening our mouths in public. We are afraid we will stammer. We get breathless and nervous. Our lips run dry. Our throat gets parched. Our voice gets choked. We start trembling. Our mind goes blank. And whatever we have prepared, we seem to forget. One major reason for all this is because we have never had any formal training in public speaking. I was a trainer in public speaking. So allow me to share a few tips on how we could be effective as public speakers. Broadly speaking, there are two basic aspects. On the one side, we have arena skills. On the other side, we have voice skills. Arena skills are also called stage skills or platform skills. As you know, an arena is visible to all, and hence the arena skills refer to bodily or physical aspects. So let's focus on some of these. The first broad aspect body language. Do you know? Body language is a language that everybody knows, rightly or wrongly. We read people's behavior, we read into their actions purely on the basis of their body language. Let's analyze body language. It can be spoken of in terms of gestures, eye contact, posture, and facial expressions. What are gestures? Our gestures are basically hand movements, but also head movements, where we may shake our heads in agreement or disagreement. We may also use our shoulders. Maybe we shrug in acknowledgement or not wanting to say yes to something. What about our eyebrows? We may raise our eyebrows to show shock or displeasure. All these come under gestures. Now, hand gestures shouldn't be below sea level, but they should be visible at sea level. You are confused, right? The sea I'm talking about is not the ocean, but let me spell it for you. S-E-E. So something you can see is what we have at elbow level. Something that is below sea level is actions that are at the hips, where you may say no, yes, but your hand is showing below sea level. Now, gestures should be free and natural. They should be spontaneous. Generally, you don't plan your gestures, but it's useful to do so, of course. Likewise, gestures should be relevant and effective. So if I want to show I'm angry and I do it through a gesture by banging on the desk, that should be effective or relevant. But it should also be timely. So if I'm showing that I'm angry and I have completed one more sentence in class and then I bang the desk, would you say that that's a timely gesture? Obviously not. So therefore, while gestures should be natural, it's useful to practice your gestures, and preferably in front of a full-length mirror. Why? Because you can see how you come across, and you may want to modify your gestures. What happens if your hands are trembling while you are giving a talk? Simple. If you have a podium, hold on to the podium, but not rigidly, whereby you show your nervousness. If you have notes, hold on to the notes. It gives you strength. If you have a mic, hold on gently to it for a short while. And of course, you may also join your hands and talk in front, or join your hands at the back and talk. It helps to build up your confidence. While speaking of gestures, we should avoid gesticulations. What are these? These are shoulder length actions. For instance, politicians, political leaders, when they face large audiences, thousands of them, if they just use simple gestures, they will not be visible. So they use gesticulations. But for you and me, we don't need gesticulations. So avoid them. What are the benefits of gestures? Firstly, it helps to relieve restlessness and boredom. the audience, which doesn't see any gestures on your part, they start wool gathering. So if you have gestures, it helps them to concentrate. The next part I would like to talk about is eye contact. And for this, let me show you a picture. Here we have a picture of Jesus. And you will agree with me that Jesus, through his eyes, is making eye contact with you and me. Even if I shift the picture to the right or to the left. Eye contact, by analogy, is like what the Indian classical dancers do. They not only dance, they not only move around, but a good bit of it is when they communicate through their eyes. Eye contact is necessary even in public speaking. What does it simply mean? Just sweeping your glance over your audience from right to left, bottom to top. Yes, this helps them to feel one with you. They feel involved with your talk. And you, as the speaker, also get feedback. Namely, are they bored? Are they not listening? Have they tuned off? And accordingly, you can change tracks. What about posture, also called stance? It's the manner in which you stand or even sit and do other actions. Namely, how you face your audience. Your posture says something to your audience about your feelings and also about your character. How? Let's look at it in this way. If I stand erect, relaxed, and not rigid, it will communicate to my audience that I am cool and confident. But if I slouch or stoop, it will tell my audience that I have been ill-prepared, lazy, or nervous. Likewise, when we stand, if you look at my posture, it is 8 to 10 inches apart. When this is done, you can gently sway from one foot to the other in case you get tired. But of course, avoid swaying. That will only distract. Likewise, you should never have your arms across your chest. This is going to stifle your breathing because your diaphragm is just below your arms and it will get constricted. So keep your hands free. Nor should you have your arms akimbo, either both arms or one. The reason? It tells your audience that you're looking down upon them. What about movements? Suppose I am giving a class and I need to use the chalkboard. I move towards the chalkboard. That's a deliberate movement. But unfortunately, many of us do this when we are teaching. We walk back and forth. And this can be terribly distracting. So let your movements be deliberate. Connected to eye contact is one's facial expressions. We all make mistakes, and quite often, when we realize them, what do? We stick out our tongue, or we bite our lip, or we make a face, we grimace. or we cover our mouth, or even slap our forehead, I Saiba. All these are facial expressions which we should avoid. Likewise, we should be aware of our mannerisms. There are women who have hair over the forehead, and one of the mannerisms is to keep on moving the hair backwards. Avoid that. I personally have a mannerism. I tend to tweak my beard as if some hair is falling off. I need to be conscious of that. Another stage skill or arena skill is proximity with the audience. It can help if you use a cordless mic, as I have done just now. And when you have a cordless mic, you can move closer to your audience. Why? What is the benefit of this? The audience feels one with you. What about your physical appearance? Dress neatly. Let your apparel be good, not showy. And your grooming should be such that it's not distracting. It'll help build your confidence in your public speaking. We saw the arena skills. Now let's look at the voice skills. The first of these is volume or loudness. This may be with or without a mic. Adjust your volume to the audience size. So speak louder when there is a bigger crowd, go softer when there is a smaller crowd. Practice projecting or throwing your voice such that it gets carried to the farthest end of the audience. We say, use your diaphragm when you speak and not just your throat. So the throat muscles are for just drawing room conversation, but your diaphragm muscles are for public speaking. The second part is the speed or pace of your speaking. It should be neither too fast nor too slow. If you're too fast, no one will understand you. If you're too slow, people will get bored. Also take care of your commas and full stops. Let me give you an example. The teacher said the boy is a fool. Now, it can be interpreted two ways. Listen to it. The teacher said the boy is a fool. Do you get the meaning? On the other hand, the teacher said that boy, the boy, is a fool. You get this meaning as well? I sometimes hear a TV personality who talks 19 to the dozen, and it often sounds like gibberish. So in our public speaking, we should be sure to keep a pace that is followed by everyone. Speed goes with pausing. It's necessary to pause at appropriate moments in one's speech. Why? For greater emphasis, and also for whatever point you made to sink in. But note that these pauses should be brief, maybe 2-3 seconds, and appropriate. Next we come to articulation, which means to speak clearly, distinctly, without any mumbling. Pronounce the end letters. Many a time we tend to mispronounce by missing out the S or the T or the D at the end of the word. Articulation and pronunciation go together. Notice I said pronunciation, but quite often I hear people saying pronunciation. Now that's wrong. So be careful how you pronounce your words. Aim at correct pronunciation. Refer to a dictionary which gives you pronunciation, or check with persons who read or speak accurately. You remember those tongue twisters we had in childhood? Pronunciation and articulation help when we pronounce those tongue twisters accurately, one of which you know. She sells seashells on the seashore. But if you start saying it fast, you'll get your C's and whatever else all mixed up. Avoid needless artificiality and putting on an accent when you're speaking. It can be distracting and annoying. Next we see modulation of one's voice, where you change the loudness, the pitch, or the tone of your voice. Why? To portray emotion or to create effect. Remember that story of the Little Red Riding Hood? The wolf met her and spoke in his natural voice, and then when he was acting as the grandmother, he changed his voice to a womanly voice. So if you're telling this story to young children, how necessary it is to modulate your voice. It helps to create interest and avoid monotony. After all that I have said, there will still be many who experience stage fright. Why? Firstly, there's a fear of being the focus of attention, being in the limelight. Then again, there is a fear of failure or the fear of rejection. The audience may not accept what I say. And of course, there is always the fear of the unknown. Now, what do you do about stage fright? There are two aspects you can see here, mental and physical. The mental aspect, accept your fear and nervousness. It's part of you, accept it. Instead, be excited about what you're going to say and do. Use positive visualization techniques, whereby in your mind you think of success and not failure. However, do not be afraid to make mistakes, because as you well know, mistakes are a stepping stone to further success. Accept positive criticism. It will help you to grow. On the physical side, take a walk before you give a talk. Breathe deeply, have breathing exercises. Sip water. Use loosening up techniques. So for instance, your hands, your shoulders, your head, those are loosening up techniques which you could practice. Don't invite attention to your nervousness by saying, I'm so sorry, but I'm not prepared and I'm feeling very nervous. Or you may take your kerchief and keep on wiping your forehead when there is hardly any heat or sweat. All this invites attention to your nervousness. So don't do that. Use props. I showed you, for instance, the picture of Jesus. That was a prop. It helps your confidence. Use memory aids. What I have here in my hand are memory aids. If I were to trust my memory, I would definitely forget. So use memory aids if your memory is not all that good. My dear friends, in James chapter 3 verse 10 it says, from the same tongue and mouth come blessing and cursing. This ought not to be so. Therefore, avoid slang, bad words, and salacious jokes in your speech. And at all times, remember, let us acquire and use our public speaking skills in the service of God and the service of mankind. For instance, in the church, in our basic Christian communities, in our workplace, or if we are school and college students, let us use our skills. Friends, I want to wish you all the best. What I have given you is in a nutshell, but useful if you try and put things into practice. God bless you.